podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to the 1905 podcast. Each week, Joe and I bring you our unfiltered takes on the highs, the lows, and everything in between, following the Blues from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding Stand. Let's hit the notes. Welcome back to the 1905 podcast for the episode that I feel like we've been talking about for about 6 weeks. It is the time for me and Joe to pick our squad for the 26-27 season. But before we do that, Joe, tonight, the World Cup starts. Are you looking forward to the World Cup?
Honestly, I didn't even know the game was going ahead until earlier on. My work colleagues went, England tonight. And I went, oh yeah, it has crept up on me, I have to say. I wasn't that interested, I'll be honest. But suddenly, I've just seen the opening ceremony and I'm a bit keen now. So yeah, I am quite keen to watch the first game and see how it all unfolds. But I think I'm one of those people that once the tournament gets going, I'll be sort of right there. But at the moment, I'm not quite with it. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think the knockout stage, that's the bit you look forward to. I think the group stages that you kind of like to see a few of the teams that you don't know much about and they can be quite interesting. But the knockout stage is where it kind of really hots up. And I think that's when my interest will get peaked a little bit more. I know you like a flutter, Joe. Have you had a flutter? And if not, who would you be putting your money on to win it?
Oh, it's a bit boring. I've gone for France. It's a bit boring. I can't see them getting beat. I really can't. The only way they get beat is if they beat themselves with, their antics that they can sometimes get up to. They've got such a world-class team. They've got 2 or 3 players in every position. I feel like they're the strongest. I do think England have an opportunity to do something purely because of the manager. I think if you give Gareth Southgate that England side that Tuchel picked, I think we'd have all laughed. But I think because it's Tuchel, and because we know him and we know what he can get out of players and the way he will set his team up, I think bear in mind that Tuchel's been brought in to win this, whereas Gareth Southgate, I think, was brought in to do your best and hope something happens. And I just think that Tuchel knows what he's doing. He might not win it, but I think that England actually could be a dark horse. I'm not saying they're going to win it, but I think they could go quite close. And as we know, no manager from a different nationality has ever won it. Did you know that?
That's interesting. No, I didn't know that.
So if you're English, Alf Ramsey won it with England in 1966. And obviously that's gone on since the World Cup began right until this current day, which I thought was an amazing stat. So yeah, no one from a different country has ever won it with another country. So Tuchel's got a lot on his hands.
Nice. That is a good stat. I'm going to go, do you know what? Maybe this is left field. I don't know what their odds are. I'm going to go for Brazil. They haven't won it in a while. I often think that when it's in kind of America, I know this isn't America, not South America, it gives the teams on that side of the world a little bit of an advantage. And I just think that Carlo Ancelotti factor might get the best out of those really top players when it comes down to it. But yeah, who knows? It'll be interesting. So we are going to pick our squad for Xabi Alonzo for next season. There are 100 various Chelsea shows around doing kind of keep, sell, loan or various versions of that. We're not going to muck around with that. We're going to go straight in and go, right, here are our picks for the squad for next season. And obviously break it down by position for you. Everyone is talking about what formation Xabi Alonso is going to play next season. Let's face it, none of us know at this point. But the talk is all about him replicating that kind of 3-4-3 formation that he played at Leverkusen. It's notable that Chelsea basically started playing that towards the end of the season as the rumours were growing about Alonso. So we're going to base our team on that, which means centre-backs, wing-backs, holding kind of 2 in centre midfield and then 2 almost attacking number 10s behind the striker. Let's start with goalkeepers. We talked about this actually, Joe, in person, didn't we, a few weeks back, and made our decision. So what I'll do is I'll talk you through what we've come up with, and then Joe, you can add your comments. So we are saying that we do the Kudicini Petr Cech moment, the Courtois Petr Cech moment, and we bring in Penders, keep Rob Sanchez, and from day one of pre-season say, right guys, the number 1 jersey is up for grabs, and bring Penders into the mix with effectively someone like a Sharman Lowe as number 3. But as we know, the number 3 never plays. So that means Jorgensen out, Penders in, a fight to the death. There's a lot of talk, isn't there, about, should Chelsea go and buy a goalkeeper? Oh, Mike Mannion might be available from Milan. But when we talked this through, Joe, we were like, look, if you don't do it with Penders now, you're kicking the can down the road again like we did last year, and it just feels like now is the time. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think what you said is exactly right. I think Sanchez, as we know, he has a rook in him. He always makes an error now and again. He will cost you points and goals from time to time, but he's fairly safe. I think last year, had the back four and the attack certainly played their part, I don't think we would have looked at Rob Sanchez as the problem. I think he was doing just fine. He's not perfect, we know that, but I just think that the problems that Chelsea have in their squad at the moment, to have a very, very good or great upcoming goalkeeper in Penders behind, and a very steady pair of hands in Rob Sanchez, who's now been at the club, I want to say 4 seasons. He knows the place. He's aware of the atmosphere of Chelsea. He's aware that if a mistake is made, the fans will get on his case a little bit, but he's got a thick skin now. I think that maybe Penders, it wouldn't be a bad thing for him to come and have a look and sort of see what it's like. But equally, I would like to see maybe Mike Penders come in a little bit, odd games here and there, not upset the apple cart too much. You don't want to sort of ruin Rob Sanchez's confidence, but I think give him a look. Give him the opportunity, like you say, to fight for the shirt in pre-season. And if Penders comes out on top in pre-season and you think, do you know what, I think he's got something, then, like you say, maybe you give that shirt to Mike Penders. But I think to have those 3 and the third choice goalkeeper, like you say, is pretty much irrelevant at this stage. I think having Penders and Sanchez as 1 and 2, whichever way around that ends up being, I think is a decent start.
And I think it's that, isn't it? I don't think it was intended that Petr Cech would get the number 1 jersey from Cudicini. I think we all love Carlo Cudicini, for those who remember him, and he was brilliant for Chelsea. And that Mourinho first season, they came in, both played equal kind of number of minutes, would be half each, wouldn't it? A lot of games, or rotating between games in pre-season. And then the big moment, that first game of the season against Man United, it was Petr Cech in goal. And obviously, we never looked back. He never looked back, and what a legend. I think it was similar when Courtois came in. I think it was like, well, it'd be interesting to see that first game of the season, who is in goal for Chelsea, which is exactly how it should be. It's how it's in every other position. And I think it's where Chelsea is in that situation now, that it's the right time to do it. So yeah, very, very interesting. But and what we've said there, by the way, sounds like it's likely to happen as well. I think that's the general talk, isn't it, coming out of the news? Okay, next up, centre-backs. So this is an interesting area because it changes the dynamic slightly, obviously, when you're playing a back 3, because you're then saying, right, you know that you need a central centre-back who's a really good ball player, comfortable doing that, and then you need your sort of 2 outside centre-backs to be good athletes, mobile, etc. I'll talk through, we've got 6 here, and generally our rule on building the squad is 2 for every position. We're old school like that, Jose Mourinho inspired. So number 1 is obviously Levi Colwill, perfect for that central centre-back role that I just described. Hato grew so much into the season. We've got him down as a left side centre-back option. Josh Achimpong, who, Joe, I don't know if you saw this, but there was an article this week of Chelsea's 7, I think it was untouchables, that Xabi Alonzo was absolutely not for sale, and Achimpong was on the list, which was very reassuring as a fan of him as we are, but he needs to get minutes now, doesn't he? It's time to actually see him play. Trevor Chalobah, we would keep around as a kind of a B option. I think Mamadou Sarr, again, comes into that category. I think he was a little bit harshly done by. And then at number 6 centre-back is a new signing. And we desperately need a new centre-back signing. And Joe, I'll let you talk to any of that, but particularly to the new signings, because I know there's a number of centre-backs out there that you'd love Chelsea to be looking at.
Yeah, I think it's trying to keep it real. I think we could all stand here and say we want to buy this player and that player and, fantasy money and stuff. I think the way I've looked at it and building the squad out is that somebody like Bastoni at Inter Milan, also his teammate now, his fee has just been triggered, I think, from Man City, Akanji. So I think he's just gone to Inter Milan this season based on them winning the league, 15 million euros, which is nothing money. I mean, it's mad when you think about it. But obviously, Akanji is not ungettable at 15 million euros, what they just paid. You know what I mean? If we had to pay double or triple that, it's still a very good signing. I think Akanji is someone that is very strong, big player, bit of a bastard. You know what I mean? I think that's the sort of player that we need. Very good on the ball. His pass completion rate is very high, and also he doesn't miss a lot of passes. I think Bastoni is someone, again, very similar. I don't think he's as tall, but I think he's certainly someone that is much more adaptable in that hybrid 3 role. He created 25 chances for Inter Milan last season from that position. A ball-playing centre-back that can come out and whip a ball into the box. A bit like Azpilicueta used to do all those years ago, that type of role, that position there. So I think he's someone that both of those players, I think, would be great. Obviously, got the experience. They've won titles in Serie A. I think Akanji's won titles with Man City. He must have done. So, he might not be their best ever player for City, but Akanji had something, and he's always had something. And whenever I see him play for Switzerland, I'm always impressed. So I think that those two in particular, I think, are very, very good options for us. And I would be very, very grateful if we could get either one of them.
Yeah, I think centre-back is the area where you need to buy a ready-made starter. They've got to come in, throw a couple of names out there we've been linked to. God knows how true this is, but Van Hecke at Brighton, Lacroix at Palace. Obviously, they have the benefit of Premier League experience as well. But you're looking at someone coming in, going, "Yep, I'm starting every game. I'm going to play 35 plus games in the Premier League this season and start in that back 3." That's what Chelsea desperately need. And probably the other factor in that is physicality, isn't it? Is height and aerial ability and making sure that we can't get bullied, because as we know, the Premier League is so physical. And hopefully, again, if you look at that back 3 formation, again, someone like Josh Achimpong, who I mentioned, is really almost perfectly tailor-made for that right centre-back role, isn't he? In terms of his profile, we've seen him play a little bit of right back, we've seen him play centre-back, he's got the height, he's got the physicality. You really hope that Xabi Alonzo comes in and goes, right, yeah, I like the look of him.
Yeah, I think he must have been told something last season for me. I reckon someone pulled him aside and said, or he said to somebody, "Why am I not playing?" And they must have said to him, "Your time will come. Stick with the plan. Please don't worry. We have our plans for you," sort of thing, because otherwise he must surely have been thinking of going. So he must have been told he's staying and he's going to be used, basically. And you're right, in that right centre-back role, I think what would be nice if he could have a Levi Colwill and maybe a Akanji or a Bastoni on the other side, for example. That's a very dominating 3. And I think that he would feel very comfortable in that 3. In a 2, I don't mind him, but as we know, he has a slight error in him. In the back 3, you can afford to maybe give the ball away once or twice, and it doesn't cost you quite as much. So I think in a learning year, and I think, you could argue last year was a learning year as well. But I think if he's going to play, let's say he plays 28 games next season, maybe more, but let's just say 28 games. That's a lot of progress. Let's just say that on his previous seasons. So yeah, I think you're right. I think when you take players away, and I'm not sure if Chris is going to go through the players that we're thinking of getting rid of, but the obvious ones that you can already shout, at your phones, or you're listening to this or whatever, is that taking players away from this squad has already made this look much more settled and a lot stronger.
Yeah, and those names, of course, are Badiashile, Wesley Fofana, cool time in his career, Tosin, Don't Cry Joe, and Axel Disasi. So it's actually 4 centre-backs that we think we can lose from the squad and only actually bring in one potentially new face, because there are the bodies there. And like you say, just taking away some of those weaker players makes a difference. We're going to go to wing-backs, and I guess the first thing to say about wing-backs is, and it's probably the trickiest area actually out of the current squad, the first thing to say is that we've got Reece James. And Reece James could also be a very good option for the right centre-back role. We've seen him play there before. It could be that's where Xabi Alonso sees him playing. But we also think on his day, Reece James is probably one of the best right-wing backs in the role. He'll be playing an attacking fullback role in the World Cup for England. So there is definitely a risk with that hamstring, but Xabi Alonso's wing-backs do different things. Joe mentioned Grimaldo earlier, not the classic bombing fullback, came inside a lot, played in the little pockets, which obviously Reece James would be so good at. So we've got Reece James in that category, but he could move into other areas. We've got two players here, one of which is effectively a brand new signing that hasn't been announced yet, but we know is going to happen, which is Barco. He's coming in from Strasbourg, starting for Argentina, can play in centre midfield or at fullback and wing-back. We put him into that left wing-back role, very good left footer for the sake of this squad building. We've got Quenda, who Chelsea paid a lot of money for from Sporting, coming in, has played wing-back before at Sporting. He's a left-footed player, can play on either side, so I think he will be a good option. Controversial at the wing-back position, and this will have some Chelsea fans screaming when they're listening to this. We've got Pedro Neto kept in the squad. And I think the reason for that, Joe, is that we think that Xabi Alonso will quite like him for that hard-working, up and down pace, and might be the person to unlock Neto with a simpler remit. A little bit like, do you know what it reminds me of? A little bit like Victor Moses. Victor Moses as a winger, a bit frustrating, probably not quite good enough. For that season under Conte, give him a wing-back role. We just say, look, get up and down the wing. Really simple role. Could be really well suited to Neto. And then number 5, we're going to put 5 in this area, is a new signing, a specialist. And Joe, you've talked about Grimaldo. I think Grimaldo is perfect and just feels like such a good fit to bring in someone who Xabi Alonso knows so well.
Grimaldo, if people don't know, played with Alonso at Leverkusen, and he was one of his starring players in their league campaign. He is 31, so he's a bit older, I have to say. But again, if Chelsea are looking at players in this area, and if they are a bit cheaper, then like I said on the last podcast, you can't expect to pay £75 million for every player that we're going to buy. We're just not going to do that. We're going to need a few Granit Xhakas and a few Grimaldos to come in at maybe 20, 25 million, because that's where we are.
So 5 in the wing-back area, Reece James, Pedro Neto, Quenda, Barco, and a new signing, let's say, for Grimaldo.
Yeah, I think it's actually very strong. I think that's a very, very strong group of players. Again, we haven't seen Quenda play in the Premier League. We haven't seen him play for Chelsea. So it's hard to get excited about a player that you haven't seen. Is he Esteban levels? Not too sure. I think he's certainly got the scope to go to that sort of, standard, which is exciting for all of us. I haven't seen Barco play. We were talking earlier on, Chris, I haven't actually seen a lot of him. I've seen little clips. He excites me in terms of what I hear about him, not what I've seen myself, but I think that the clips and the word on the street is that he's very, very exciting and one to watch. Watching Reece James last night for England, I thought was a joy. My goodness me, he looks so calm and so clever on the ball, and some of the longer passes that he played for Madueke were just sublime. And if Chelsea can get that level of Reece James playing every single week, we really have got one of the best players in the world. And I think he's so underrated. I think people that know football will always say Reece James is high quality, world class. People that don't will always just say, oh, he's not as good as Trent, or he's not as good as this player. And you just kind of go, you don't know your football. I'm sorry, you just don't. Trent's a great player, but just there's levels. And people will say that Trent's won this trophy and that trophy and whatever. I can't take those trophies away. But watching players side by side, there is no comparison. If you want a right wing back or a right centre back, Reece James is your man. I think Pedro Neto, you're right. I think there's a lot to be said about keeping his game simple. I thought you were going to say, actually, keep it simple like Rob Sanchez. In a strange way, is that I think Neto, if you tell him to do something, I think he'd do it. Like, some players don't always react well to that kind of explanation. I think Neto actually would. I think he needs a little bit of guidance. I think that Neto working with a Thomas Tuchel, for example, I think would work wonders with him. I think he gets inside your mind, and I think he builds you up to something that maybe you didn't know you'd be yourself. So I think that Neto, he might end up frustrating us. We might regret saying that we should get rid of him. But I think a £50 million player who has certainly given a lot to the club, more so than somebody like Garnacho, for example. I think he deserves another chance. I think in a different position and a different role. If he does go down the wing and pull a ball back as a right wing back, that's not a bad thing to do. As a winger, it drives you nuts. So maybe there are some skill sets there that will help us. So I think in that wing back area, mate, I think we're very, very covered.
Let's talk about who that means it's leaving. So first one is Mark Cucurella. We talked about him in the last pod. The rumours are going nowhere. It'll probably happen after the World Cup at this point, but we think Cucurella is likely to end up moving this summer and going to Spain. And then this is probably the one. So Joe and I are playing sporting directors today, obviously. We are joint sporting directors, number 6 and 7 at Chelsea, and making the calls. So we've made them together. And I messaged Joe earlier and said, oh, you know what, though? If we're playing wing backs, I just wonder if Xabi Alonzo is going to quite like Gusto. And if Malo Gusto is kind of made for that right wing back role, it's sort of the one time when you look at Gusto and think, yeah, no, he's quite useful there. And Joe, your response was pretty direct, right?
Fuck him. I've got a real dislike to Gusto. I think there's players I look at, right? So Pedro Neto is a great example here. I look at Neto and I think to myself, if I was in trouble, he'd help me out. I feel like he would run all day long for me. You know, I just don't think Gusto would. I think the moment Gusto thought things were going wrong, he would just duck out the door. I just don't like his attitude, full stop. I don't like Fofana's attitude for the same reason. And I think these are the type of, I don't like using the word cancer because obviously it has other meanings as well, but they are like cancer towards the squad. I really, really do. And I think you, as a player, if I'm looking at senior pros, they are not the senior pros that I want to be looking up to. I want to look up to Reece James. I want to look at, even sounds mad, Hato over Gusto. I give you the two options. If I'm a young player coming through and I see what Hato gives to the team and what he not just his energy and stuff, it's the way they react to losing the ball, or the way that maybe my friend has given the ball away, but Hato's first to win it back for me. And I think that's what I want to see in my team. And I'm sick and tired of seeing players like Gusto and Fofana basically toss seasons off, toss games off because they can't be bothered, or they think we're going to lose, or they don't have the confidence that Chelsea are going to win this game, so they don't really play their best. And quite frankly, I saw enough at the Sunderland game at the end of the season to say, thank you very much, Gusto. I've seen enough. Goodbye.
Yeah, well said. I think it echoes that point you mentioned earlier, Joe, which is when I listed this out and sent it to you by WhatsApp, I sent you the list of outs that we come up with, and you were like, the squad's already better. Just to have these players out of the group, I feel better about the squad even before you start bringing players in. And I think probably when you talk about Gusto and Fofana, it's that point, isn't it? Just this sort of like, let's be fresh, let's start again with players who you think that are really going to give everything for the club. So yeah, Gusto and Cucurella, and again, you know, probably a good chance to make a bit of money on both of them actually this summer, where Chelsea do need to raise money, of course. Right, after this break, that's the defence done. After this break, we will go to the midfield and the attack. Okay, welcome back. Let's talk about the midfield. Centre midfield, again, for those who don't know kind of how Xabi Alonso likes to set up his teams, I think this one area, regardless of whether he plays a back four or a back three, seems pretty universal. He likes to have sort of two holding midfielders, got double sixes, for those who like that kind of language. Joe's shaking his head at me. And they play pretty close together. That's kind of always been the way that Alonso likes his centre midfielders to play. Lots of close passing, close proximity. So we've got 4 in this area. He might want 5, but we've gone with 4. Moises Caicedo, obviously, number 1. Andre Santos, number 2. We're not willing to write him off yet. Romeo Lavia as number 3. And I've seen quite a lot of these, you know, buy sell loans who are like, it's time to write off Lavia, get rid of him. I'm just not ready yet. I'm just not ready. So Lavia's number 3. And then number 4, I think we both feel quite strongly he's going to want a new signing in there to be in that group. Maybe someone with a little bit more experience, perhaps. So before we talk about the new signings, Joe, do you want to talk about those 3, Caicedo, Santos and Lavia in any way, and what you think maybe Xabi Alonso will think of those guys?
Yeah, it's a massive season for Lavia. I think we last year was a massive season. We know if they can get him fit, he is a really good player, high quality player. I'm loath to say world class because we haven't seen enough of him, but when he has played, he has been fantastic. I think you know that, I know that. Anyone who's seen him in a Chelsea shirt has been nothing but impressed. obviously Caicedo, the wheels fell off last season. I think we could all see that a mile off. He just seemed to lose everything, really. He lost his composure, his temperament, his ability on the ball, off the ball. In moments, there were games where you went, oh, more like, the Liverpool game springs to mind away at Anfield, but they were poor on the day and they weren't chasing much themselves. I think they'd given up slightly. And I just think, he fell off. But I think we all know that Caicedo is a world-class player. He really is. There's a lot of Declan Rice talk at the moment, and rightly so. Declan Rice has been fantastic. There's no question about it. He is right up and one of the best players in the world in his position. But Moises Caicedo, for me, is definitely right there. But he just needs to show it. And I think the fact that Chelsea fell off a cliff was the reason why Moises Caicedo fell off a cliff. You can imagine you're running after a football for 90 minutes every single week, and your teammates aren't showing you the same level of commitment and trust. I think my head would be a bit like, do you know what? I'm probably never run for one. I'm not sure on this manager. I'm not keen on him, what he's telling me. My teammates aren't keen on Rosinia, for example, and they're not putting the same level of effort that I am. So I'm not going to break my balls, basically. So I think there was an element of that, and I think having played football and at high standard, I can sense that maybe crept into his game. Santos, I think, is one of our great development players. I really hope we can hang on to him. There's rumours that he's maybe linked away, and if Chelsea get a decent enough offer that they would be willing to listen to it. I would be opposed to selling Santos, not because I want to sell Santos. If Chelsea got £75 million for him, which I don't think they would, but let's just say something mental like that, and they could go and replace, maybe two positions or maybe another area of the field we were desperately keen to upgrade, then maybe you do it. But I think that Santos is another player that I think has grown on us a lot. I think we all knew he was good when he came from Strasbourg last season on loan. He's got better and better, and I hope that we can hang on to him for as long as possible because he looks, again, another world-class player in the making. Let's just say that. And I'll let you speak on the players you think might want to come in.
Yeah, and before I do that, the other one I didn't mention, because we sort of thought maybe it's time for him to go loan, but looking at it, maybe he would want a fifth in there, is Asugo, who again is the one that we haven't really seen much of. Kind of Caicedo light, isn't he, meant to be? So perhaps, again, you kind of look at Asugo and think you'll probably want to look at him in pre-season. Obviously, Caicedo will have been at the World Cup like many others, so there'll be game time early on in pre-season. Maybe Asugo, actually, we shouldn't write off at this point and might be the fifth option in there that he'll have a little look at and think, maybe I could use you. And then new signings. So there's kind of a little bit like the Grimaldo one. There's the Xhaka, Granit Xhaka option, where he'd go for someone very experienced who comes in, knows his football really well. Yes, Sunderland have just got into Europe, but I think the power of that Xabi Alonzo phone call potentially has some weight. And then talking of the power of the Xabi Alonzo phone call, the one that we've been linked to a little bit is from Real Madrid, which is Camavinga, and potentially a deal to be done there if Enzo Fernandez, who we'll come on to obviously, was to go the other way. Then you've probably got a little bit more pie in the sky links to Wharton at Palace, but the money's going to be crazy, isn't it? Any word on those guys, Joe, and anyone else in the centre midfield that you like? But because I think you've obviously got Reece James as well, who could obviously play in there. But I think that is an area you think Chelsea probably want one more. And actually, I'm just to throw more names out there. We've also been linked to the Newcastle boys. So we've been linked to Tonali and Guimaraes as well. Again, paper talk, as it often is with Chelsea at this stage. But yeah, there's a few names out there.
Yeah, Camavinga's one that I think it's worth keeping an eye on, just because we don't know who fell out with who. Real Madrid at the moment are a mess. They just signed Real Madrid, Jose Mourinho today. He's signed on the dotted line today. He comes with his own fireworks and his own antics. And if he likes you and loves you, then you're going nowhere, as we know this with players, from our own players. If Camavinga's one of them players that's maybe surplus, then you just never know. It comes to the Premier League. Alonso maybe liked him. Are they friends? Were they friends? When he was manager, who knows? He's a variable. I think someone like Camavinga instantly makes you an important side again. Asugo, who I think is, again, potential. It's all potential. Caicedo light, as you call him, Chris. Absolutely right. But he's not Caicedo, is he? That's the reason we call him light. So the point is that if you want to improve and improve quickly, Camavinga's the player that you buy. If you want to kind of just be steady eddies and hope that Caicedo can play every game of the season and not get injured, well, that's not going to be the case and not get suspended. Your replacements that come in have got to be of equal quality, and I just don't think that Sugo is. I think there is, again, potential maybe 3 or 4 years, but we haven't got 3 or 4 years. We need to get back into Europe and the Champions League as quickly as possible because the club will be burning money, really, really fast. So I think that if you look at it from that point of view, I think if Chelsea want to get serious and want to get serious about competing at the higher end for trophies and for those top 4 or 5 places, which is not great, I know, but back to where we need to be, I think we need to go for the likes of a Camavinga, and I don't think that we should shy away from it. If the opportunity comes up, then I think we should definitely try and take it.
I mean, some people are like, you're not going to get a Camavinga, but again, we're kind of thinking, how powerful is that Xabi Alonzo phone call, potentially? I mean, Camavinga, by the way, I'm looking at his stats. He's 23. He's only 23. He's basically started for Real Madrid for the last 5 seasons. He's played over 40 games consistently for the last 5 seasons for them. He would come in, as you say, he's a left footer as well. He would come in alongside Caicedo, and you'd be like, right, that's probably as good as a Premier League centre midfield you're gonna find. That's how much of an upgrade it would be. It's obviously going to cost a lot of money, but if they do want Enzo Fernandez, potentially there's a deal to be done. Before we go into the attackers, Joe, little sideline, the Jose Mourinho thing. That's really brought a smile to my face that he's back in the big time. I kind of think it really felt like he was a fading light and his big time days were over. And I think I've forgiven him now for going to Spurs and Man United. I'm okay with it now, and I can remember the good times at Chelsea. And him going to Real Madrid just feels like, oh wow, he's back. Watch him like rock up in that nice coat, and he's going to dust down the grey coat from 2005. He'll be back.
Couldn't agree more, mate. I'll be honest. When I first heard it, I thought it was just nonsense. I was talking about maybe 4 weeks ago. I thought this is nonsense. He's never going to go there. Why is this story even a thing? But yeah, it's the old West club. Perez would have been back. I think he still sees that he's got something. He might last 6 months and he could be gone. But I wouldn't want to walk that Real Madrid team. I tell you now, for all the tea in China, I just could not figure out. Bellingham doesn't talk to Mbappe, and this player doesn't talk to him, and you've got factions within that group. And because it's not like any other team, Real Madrid, the players basically run it. And if a player doesn't want to run, he won't run. It doesn't matter what you say, and he'll still be getting his 400 grand a week or 500 grand a week what he's earning. So there's massive problems at Real Madrid. Can Jose figure that out in 6 months or whatever? I just don't know. I think it's a massive job for him. He's a big time manager. I couldn't agree more with what you said about the whole kind of big time guy and forgiving him for going to Spurs and Man United. I was probably the worst of a lot of our friends. I was the one that was very much like, no, I didn't like it. The Spurs thing particularly, I really didn't like it. I thought it was unnecessary to do that. I thought it was just one of them ones you think, why go there? What's the rationale to go there? Man United, I can get it. I understand that one. And when he said some negative things about Chelsea, it did frustrate me. But since listening to him talk, now basically, he has been nothing short of just glowing about Chelsea. The players, the time he had there, the people that were there, Roman himself, and everything about the club at the time. And I think to myself, yeah, you do really love us. And he has said that Chelsea was his favourite team, and he won't forget that time. So yeah, I agree, Chris. I think that's a great shout to bring that up at this stage. And obviously, because we're not in the Champions League next season, let's hope they go and win it.
Yeah, quite right. And if he does a great job at Real Madrid, and who knows, because it's such a weird job, maybe he will, then maybe you come back one day for number 3. Right, attackers. So attackers is a weird one. So again, we're basing it on this 3-4-3 formation, kind of 2 number 10s behind the striker. Florian Wirtz, obviously the most heralded in that Leverkusen team, did the job brilliantly. And number 1 on our list of attackers is, of course, Cole Palmer, playing in that kind of right pocket number 10 that we've said it before with previous managers, but one of the key jobs obviously for Xabi Alonzo is to get the best out of Cole Palmer, and he is hoping that having a proper break for the first summer in a long time will do Cole the world of good. Probably Cole's backup, if you like, but I'm sure we'd love to see him on the pitch together plenty is Esteval. So he's on the list. We've got Jamie Gittins on the list here on the basis that I think Gittins, you're not going to sell him because the amount of money Chelsea have spent on him. And he's a right footer who can play off the left. If you want to play a wing option, he gives you that. And I just think he'll get the pre-season. So we've kept him in the squad. And then number 4 on our list is, at the moment, Enzo Fernandez. No one knows what's going to happen. Jose has finally gone to Real Madrid. It does look like it is a one-team shout-out, isn't it, for Enzo at this stage? It's only Real Madrid really being strongly linked. So it depends if they are willing to spend the money on him. We said on the last pod that we thought Cucurella would go, but maybe Enzo Fernandez wouldn't. And we don't know, Joe, do we? We don't know. And maybe a lot will depend on whether he has a brilliant World Cup. And if he does, then Real Madrid like to buy one of the stars of the World Cup. We know that. But if he does stay, he's kind of made for that left side, crushing the box number 10 job that he does so well. So we've got him in there. And then number 5, it's pretty well rumoured that Chelsea do want to buy another player to play off the left with a right foot. And the names being linked are the likes of, again, do you get him, but Morgan Rogers from Villa, who Chelsea have a long-standing interest in. I don't know if you saw the rumour today, Joe, but Marcus Rashford being linked to Chelsea. Again, play off the left with his right foot. And then obviously Jared Bowen at West Ham, who'd be a little bit different because he's a left footer and likes playing off the right, but is fairly versatile, would be another one that maybe we would look at. So Joe, yeah, a lot to unpick there. Give us to start. I mean, Palmer and Estevao are easy, aren't they? And Gittins we think is going to stick around. But give us your thoughts on Enzo and any new players that we've been linked to. Anyone that you like out there.
I think Enzo will stay. I don't think that Chelsea are going to get what they want for him. He might go eventually. He might go next season. You know, I just have a sneaky suspicion, unless he goes and, like you say, scores a couple of goals at the World Cup quite early, and Perez and Jose get a little bit itchy, kind of that trigger finger, want to get a signing over there because they do. They promise their fans signings, don't they? It's part of the election that's just gone in Real Madrid. So you never know if he has a really starring role in the first 2 or 3 matches. Before you know it, he could be gone. But I do think that Enzo will end up staying unless they're prepared to pay upwards of £100 million, so probably like 110, 15 million euros. I just don't see Enzo leaving this summer. You mentioned like Rashford, Bowen, etc. I think at this stage where Chelsea are, I think Bowen seems the more sensible signing in terms of squad harmony. I think someone like Rashford is someone that's going to come in, he's going to want to demand huge money. Even if we could get Rashford on loan and you could maybe pay a bit of his wages but not pay a transfer fee, that'd be great. But Man United aren't going to allow that. They're just not. So it'll be buy or nothing. So I think at this stage, you've got mavericks like Rashford, who on their day could be scintillating. He's scored plenty of goals for Barcelona this season. I think by all accounts, he's had a very good season. I think I'm surprised they didn't go for him. I think they promised him they would buy him, and they've basically gone back on that and ended up buying Anthony Gordon, which is a bit of a strange one. But I think Bowen fits our team quite nicely. I don't think he upsets the apple cart too much. In a year where you haven't got Europe as well, I just think that maybe do you need to be spending hundreds of thousands of pounds a week on a player like Rashford when really the numbers, when it's all said and done, I think Gareth Bowen will probably give you similar numbers and it would cost you probably half the amount of money. I feel as though if there's a deal to be done for Bowen, it would be a good deal. And I think that he'd be the smart signing. I think if Rashford suddenly turned up with his big bag of money and played for us, you get behind him like of course you would, but I just don't feel he's the right fit for us right at this stage.
I agree. I'd really love Jared Bowen at Chelsea. He's 29. He comes across really well. When you hear him interviewed, he's very honest. He's refreshing. He's got that leadership that we've been crying out for. His numbers are actually ridiculous. I'm looking at it now. Like for 5 seasons in a row, he's hit double figures in goals at West Ham, and not just double figures. I'll read out the last 5. 18 goals, 11 assists. 13 goals, 7 assists. 20 goals and 10 assists in 44 games. 14 goals, 8 assists. And even last season, in a terrible West Ham team, he's got 11 goals and 12 assists. He is an end product guy. He's got a bit of everything. The only worry with him is he's a left footer, and Chelsea seem to want a right footer. But I just feel like let's have a bit of versatility again when you can have a bit of option and players can play off both sides. The other one we got linked to as well, actually, Joe, I wanted to get your opinion on because you reacted on our WhatsApp group, and I'd be interested to have your thoughts on him, is Leao from Milan. He's been linked, and it sounds like he might leave Milan finally this year. He is a right footer. Big guy, plays off the left wing or up front. What did he do last year? He scored 10 goals in 30 games, again, consistently hitting double figures goals in Serie A. What are your thoughts on him?
My comment on our WhatsApp group was purely that I don't think we could get him in a month of Sundays. It was not that I didn't like him. I love him. I love the player. I was like, Chelsea going to get Leao. I just don't see it personally. Strange things have happened. I know that, but I just think that it's a market that if he becomes available, I just think there's teams better suited right now that he want to go to. You know, he's going to be a star of this World Cup, I think, for Portugal. I mean, they are stacked, Portugal in midfield. It's scary, their midfield. Then we talk about winners and losers earlier on. I mean, Portugal, if they get it right, have got a very good chance as well. You know, I love Leao, mate. I think he's wonderful. I wanted him 5 years ago, but I just don't think that Chelsea, the way we are in a position to be bidding at the tables alongside the Liverpools and the Man Cities and the Arsenals. He'd want to go there, surely. That's the way I would see it. Champions League football. But yeah, I think it's probably time for him to move on from Milan because I don't think his game's going to improve much more. He's probably going to be stagnant, I think, there, and I think he just needs that little move now. But yeah, I love him, mate. I think he's wonderful, but just not for us, I don't think, at the moment.
We really need to find a top player like Dennis Bergkamp, who's brilliant, but afraid of flying. So therefore not being in Europe would be like a massive benefit to them. So be like, oh, you're not in Europe, that's great. Because I don't like traveling. I'm scared of flying. So this is perfect. That's what we need.
I think what we do need is Esteval to become that player. I think this is the thing. We've spoken about potential for 2 or 3 years on the podcast. I think now is the time where we finally need to see that person jump. And I think if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be him. He looks the guy that, the game that I was convinced the most in, and you might laugh, was the 3-0 loss at Everton away. He was the one that was in the back of the net, getting the ball out and taking it to the second spot. He was the one that was running past teammates, running past Enzo Fernandez and going, come on. That's when I went, yeah, you've got, what it means to be a Chelsea player, you know what it means to win. And I thought there was just something about him on that day. And I thought to myself, yeah, okay by me. And losing games isn't a problem. You're all going to lose games from time to time. It's the way you lose. Like I said, the Gusto reaction would have been just to kick it in the net again a few times, roll it out to somebody else, slowly walk back to your mark. But no, this is a guy, he's like fed up of losing, fed up of conceding goals, wants to go up the other end and score himself. And I just think that we can hope that Esteval turns into one of these world-class players over time.
Yeah, spot on. And you look at him, and actually we just didn't ever see him and Palmer play together enough last season. We got so excited in pre-season, those little moments, didn't we? And then it never really happened. You had Palmer's injury, then Esteval's injury, so there wasn't really much of an overlap. And you look at those two together and think what they could do would be amazing. Again, like, let's say Enzo does leave and you go, well, there's 2 positions there and you've got Palmer, Esteval and Bowen. Effectively, it's a nice mix. And then maybe a fourth in like a Joey Gittins or something. You go, well, actually, there aren't that many games next season. You want those players on the pitch a lot more than they're not, and that would be a really good option. I went down a rabbit hole this week, Joe, looking into what grade 4 hamstring injuries mean when it comes to Esteval, because it's a really bad hamstring, and is there a danger that he won't ever have become the player he was? I was reassured because Dembele, I think, had a couple of grade 4 hamstrings at the start of his career, and he's done all right, isn't he? He looks all right. He's all right. Okay, so what that does mean, obviously, is there are a couple of outs. So we are up now to outs 9 and 10 on our list. Tyreek George, your time is up. Sounds like Everton are interested potentially in making that a permanent deal. So Tyreek George, we'd cash in on, and Garnacho. It's time to cash in, isn't it? I don't think you're gonna get. You'll do well to get what you paid for him, but I think you look at him and think, yeah, I don't think Xabi Alonso is going to want to work with him. So if they can do a deal there, that means that those two leave. And then we are into the strikers, the area. So strikers, I think, Joe, you and I were pretty aligned on this very, very quickly. We've got 3 in the centre forward position. João Pedro, obviously. A return for Nicholas Jackson. And coming in from Strasbourg, their captain, Amiga, as our number 3 option. Big guy, could be a good option in the box. Which means Delap going out, we think, on loan, probably. And then Mark Gui, we would sell. Worth mentioning that João Pedro has played a number 10 as well at Brighton quite often, off a big man, so he could be a good option on that left forward role. Nicholas Jackson has played, obviously, left wing as well and played off a striker. He did it even last season at Bayern. I think the first thing that we've got to talk about there is Nicholas Jackson. We really want him back, don't we?
Yeah, I think we missed him. I think Cole Palmer missed him, actually, funny enough. I think his game fell off a cliff without him. And I think this is one of the easiest decisions that Chelsea can make. Strikers, as we know, cost an arm and a leg, whoever you are. Bayern Munich were going to have to pay, was it 80 or 90 million for him if they wanted him up from us this summer, if they made that move permanent. So it kind of shows you that Jackson is not the finished article and it was still going to cost them, upwards of 80 or 90 million. Very easy one. Like you say, João Pedro hopefully will get better and better. He can play a couple of positions. Nicholas Jackson, as we know, can play off the left. He can play up front. He generally, I think he didn't learn a lot of lessons in Germany. I think he's still got a couple of red cards. I think he still flew in on a few challenges. So when he comes back, you sort of have to factor in that maybe he might get himself sent off. He might cost you a performance here and there. But I think what he gives you in goals and performances and a general energy. For example, when Liam Delap came up for Chelsea this season, at any point, there was no energy. He was flat. He was basically just kind of going through the motions. He wasn't, but that's how it appeared, Whereas Nicholas Jackson, when he plays from the bench or from the start, he's all action. He might miss a few chances or whatever. But like we say, he knows how to finish those one-on-one chances. He knows how to finish those first-time ones. He scored so many of those kind of balls where Palmer slipped the ball across and he just put it in first time without thinking, which is Jackson's best trait, by the way. When he thinks too much, he often puts them over the bar or straight at the goalkeeper. So I think instinctively he makes us better. And I said in the last podcast that if he'd played for Chelsea this season, we would have made the Champions League. I meant that. I didn't mean Europe. I meant the Champions League. I think Jackson probably scores us, let's be fair, 12 to 15 goals without even worrying. And I think that's enough goals to put you in there. And obviously, with those goals come better performances. You're in winning positions more often, is what I'm trying to say. I know we conceded a lot of goals and stupid goals, but I think when you're winning games of football and you're competing at the highest level, players are more interested. I think that Chelsea players basically, I say gave up, but I think they just lost the will to live. And I think they're just like, it's over. And it was all done. So I think with Jackson coming back, with João Pedro there, and I think with this new guy, Amiga, coming in, I think we're pretty well set. And I think we can spend our money in other areas. We don't need to replace anyone there. And I think we've already got it at the club. So we don't.
Yeah, spot on. And I think with Jackson and maybe Amiga as well, you can link the two together. Chelsea is trying to be a bit more greedy. I think we talked about it earlier with like Penders and Sanchez. Let's be the big club that goes, no, you're all in. Like I think last summer, in hindsight, if Chelsea had kept, as you said, Joe, got Delap coming in, a bit of an unknown quantity. Let's keep Jackson as well. And João Pedro would have been like, right, come on, you three. There's no reason you can't play together at times, but let's see what you've got. But instead, Chelsea kind of let Jackson go out, a bit of loan money, and it was like immediately we're on the back foot. And I think Chelsea need to be a bit greedy this season and go, no, I'm going to play with 3 strikers. I'm going to be old school. I'm going to have Drogba, Crespo, and Good Johnson. I'm going to have all of them. I'm going to work it out when we get into the season. So yeah, that's our squad. So I'll rattle through it. one more time, just because I know it's hard to listen through to these things and understand. But what's interesting, Joe, is that effectively we've brought in a lot of players. We've brought in 9 new players into the squad based on last season, but actually only 5 of them are at properly new signings. So we're only saying 5 new signings from cash, one of which is Barco, by the way, who's basically a done deal. It just hasn't been announced. And then 4 of those guys are either returning loanees like Jackson or people we've previously already bought, like Amiga and Quenda, people like that. So goalkeepers, 3 goalkeepers. I'll do it really quickly. Sanchez, Penders, Sharman Lowe. Centre-backs, Colwill, Hatto, Chalobah, Achimpong, Sarr, Bastoni. Let's aim big, Joe. There's our centre-backs. Wing-backs, Reece James, Grimaldo, Barco, Quenda, Neto. Centre midfielders, Casado, Camavinga, Santos, Lavia, Asugo. Attackers, Palmer, Enzo, if you stay, Esteval, Gittins, Jared Bowen, and then up front, João Pedro, Jackson and Amiga. So that is our squad. That is the squad, Joe. That is good enough to what? Finish? Where do you want that squad to finish?
I'm first.
Easy.
Honestly, listening to it, I was like, it really sounds so much better. I feel happier already. And look, we might be wrong. Tosin might end up staying. Fofana might end up staying. Gusto might end up staying. And that will piss me off. I ain't going to lie. I'm done with those players, really done. That's my last dig to Tosin and Gusto. And, hopefully it's the final one they're going to get this season. But if we can, I'm not saying the players you've added in like Bowen and Camavinga for sort of, for the purpose of the pod. But even if those players don't sign and it's somebody else, I'm like, that's fine. What we have there is good. And I think the most important thing that people forget is that you've got to lock the door. Chelsea have got to stop conceding goals the way they do. It's a bit embarrassing. That's the reason why we're losing games. 0-0, the longer the game stays 0-0, you've always got a chance of, nicking it 1-0 near the end. When you're 3-0 down at half time, what you're doing sort of thing. The game's done and dusted. So Chelsea needs to be a bit clever. I trust in Xabi Alonzo. I think he's a high quality manager, the best manager we could have got by a country mile at the time. And I just really hope that come next season, we are staring at the league at maybe 4th, 3rd position, and we, surprised a few. Let's just say that.
Yeah, we're feeling optimistic again. We're back. This is the time to be optimistic again. And I should say, there's loads of players we didn't even mention. The likes of Anselmino, Kendrick Paez, all these guys that we think Chelsea will probably put out on loan. Again, it'll be part of the army, but probably aren't in our squad pick for next season, but may have a future with the club. We'll have to wait and see. So thanks for listening in. I hope you enjoyed that. Let us know your thoughts. Email us at hello@1905podcast.com and let us know what your squad would be. And Joe?
Just lastly, I think this is probably going to be our last pod of the season in terms of that's the end of that season. I'd like to pay a personal thank you to you, Chris, for editing all this together every single week, every single time you do it. I know it's family time, it takes that out of your day. It's a huge thank you from me. I know all the listeners that email us and Instagram us and all the rest of it really appreciate what we do, but that stems from you getting up your arse and actually doing this. So massive props to you, mate. And here's for another season, hopefully, of some hope.
I made me emotional, Jay. Last year you did it as a voice note. It was less awkward than looking at you while you were being so lovely. But no, it's been really fun. Honestly, we love doing this. We're going nowhere. It's like one of our favorite things to do, isn't it, Joe? And yeah, thank you to everyone for listening. Do send us a note. We read and reply to every single email and comment we get. So keep them coming in. And yeah, we'll carry on over the summer, won't we, Joe? Because we just love talking about Chelsea, I think.
Hopefully we're talk about some new signings. That'd be nice. That'd be very, very nice.
Exactly. And yeah, let us know whatever your thoughts are for next season. We will reply. And Joe, do you know what? Having picked our squad for next season, I feel more confident saying this than I have for a long time. I think every little thing's going to be all right.
Up the Chelsea.
Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be alright.